everyone. This is Pinky from Herman Foundation, and we have today with us Dr. Amit Sharma. We welcome you to Let's Connect with Amit Sharma. We are very privileged to have someone who has got depth and in-field knowledge of yoga, meditation, and good ways of living your life. So I'm going to give you a brief about Dr. Amit before we go and ask him to give his formal introduction. So he has done PhD from PU Chandigarh on yoga. He has written various articles and journals on Ayurveda and yoga. He's also running his NGO, Dhamma Yoga, from last 10 years, and he's specialist in Hatha Yoga and also organizes retreat couple of times a year for people to add pause and wellness in their life. So welcome Amitji to Let's Connect from Herman Foundation.
Thank you very much, Pinky. I appreciate the Herman Foundation to create more awareness among people, and I'm happy to be part of it. And thank you for me for having on the board.
Yeah, it's our privilege to have you though. Thank you so much for taking time out and coming on the show with us. So Amitji, let's keep it very casual. Just be as you are and let us know something about your passion on yoga. How did you initiated yoga and this pause in your life? When did you started it? How were you involved in all these yoga and wellness activities? Just share with us.
Hatha Yoga has been my passion for a very, very long time. I mean, when I was 7 years old, when I started doing these postures, breathings, and some practices of meditations. So I was lucky to born in a kind of family environment in which there were a lot of books available, a lot of guidance available. So that nurtured me a bit from the very beginning, and then I went to schools, I got the right teachers, and so it keeps going on. It's also personally, I was slightly a different kind of personality. I was the kind of person who was looking more for forest rather than the trees. So he's more interested in the deeper reality. He's more interested in awareness. Who is not very easily caught up in things and the senses, but try to find out what is behind it. So, sort of why I attached to the Hatha Yoga is Hatha Yogas give me a framework, a theoretical framework which can provide answers to my questions, my views. And it has been a very old 5,000 years old tradition and very living tradition till date. And it's a way of life, it's a discipline, it's a way of life, and it's very scientific and experiential that you do it and you will see that kind of awareness you're building. Because we have certain things we can observe directly through our senses. Mm-hmm. And among those situations which our senses are capable of understanding the situation, we react well, most of them. Mm-hmm. Overreact, but that's another part. But know how to respond to the situation. Mm-hmm. But there are certain deeper things in which senses doesn't help. Mm-hmm. Like for instance, Corona also. And so those who never get sick, never have anything in the memory, just give it an example. If you ask them that you do hand wash a couple of times and do, maintain the social distancing, and because the virus is you can't see with naked eyes. Mm-hmm. You need awareness to understand how it can work. Otherwise, you will understand by the time it already damaged you. So that is the key to awareness. Awareness takes you to spaces which you can't go with the senses, the faculty of sense organs. So this awareness this was very good, not good, but very rudimentary, a very common example, very simple example. But if we go vast beyond, across the universe, then there are so many things which affect us, and we can't perceive or answer them direct through our sense perception. So awareness, the cultivating of awareness is the key, and this living tradition, which basically gives you practices in which you can build an awareness which can transcend your personal limitation and connect you with the entire universe, are amazing. So that sort of theoretical framework I found in the Hatha Yoga and also other sister tradition of Hatha Yoga like Ayurveda. And it was my passion from very, very young age. Then I read, as I said, I was lucky to get a kind of environment in which I could get to write kind of books available. So there was so many guidance available. So I kept nurturing it. And then finally it culminated in when I wrote my PhD thesis on the Hatha Yoga text. I also include some Ayurvedic texts like Charak Samhita, Shishir Samhita, and try to explore their epistemological, theoretical, and methodological foundations. So yeah, it was a long journey. So when I see 35 years back, I see Hatha Yoga is this kind of thread which is following along, and I still Hatha Yoga is the way I express my life.
That's so beautiful. Like yoga is expression of life. You have put it so well together. And I really like when you say the input devices that we have, ear, eyes, and all the senses. When you go beyond that, that awareness which is inside you, which can identify these subtle sensations like coronavirus. You have, when you are aware enough, you can identify all these subtle sensations and frequencies as well. And such a long journey you have. You were a child, I can imagine when you started it, and now 3 decades back, when you look back. So how have you evolved? And when you say that yoga gives you answers, I heard you said that it gives you answers. What kind of answers that you get from yoga? I am curious to know.
Look, as I said, there are questions about the nature of the universe. Nature of us, for instance, who am I, is a timeless question. Where I'm coming from, where I have to go. So these are one you can explain the scientific explanation. The science will say that they're rubbish questions. Basically, science doesn't ask why; science asks how. So science can tell you what and how, but not why. Why it doesn't come? They will send you to the department of philosophy, and that's a theoretical.
So true.
So that happened to many scientists. If they, physicists, and if they talk too many whys, they send it to philosophy of science. But philosophy is more speculations, theoretical answers. So yoga is a living tradition in which you can experience what actually you are. And I think in all our answer, it eventually come down to experience. Because whatever I know, it's my experience.
Yeah.
If it's a part of my experience, I have no idea. So anything that has to, so experience is the primary thing. Whatever you know, whatever you say, is part of your experience. Without any experience, you have no idea. So yoga is a very experiential tradition. Like they have in Ashtanga yoga, they have Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dhyana and Samadhi. So this is a very specific method to realize your own self, true self. So as I said, I have a physical side, I have an emotional side, I have a mental side, I have a spiritual side. Can't find answer. I can find probably answer just my physical side on the science. But when I want to see and understand myself as a whole, so Hatha Yoga is the tradition that takes the person as a whole and give you practices in which you can create awareness about that whole. As I said, the senses can't help. So we need an experiential living practice so we can touch the core of us. So that experiential side is something which I'll focus. Even if you see in Indian tradition, the philosophy is known, like in West we say philosophy. The Sanskrit word for philosophy is basically darshan shastra.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
And darshan is what darshan means, revelation or realization.
Realization, yeah.
Yes. So, and in that Shastra, if you say India has many traditions, like we have 9 philosophical systems. We have Nyaya, Vaisheshik, Uttar Mimamsa, Purva Mimamsa. We have Jain, we have Bauddha, and we have Lokayat. There are 9 philosophical traditions, but all of 9, except Lokayat. Lokayat is a materialist philosophy. You'll be surprised to know they are materialist in India too. We say, jab tak jiyo, udhar leke hi piyo. Very minor, but normally India has been a very strong spiritual tradition, 8 schools. And in those 8 schools, there is unanimity, whether you're Buddhist or Jain or Uttar Mimamsa or Purva Mimamsa or Nyaya or Sankhya, whatever you are, but whenever you have to realize, they give you critical speculations, but if you have to realize that, then yoga is the answer. Yoga is the method, it's the methodology to reach to your true nature, what you actually are, creating a awareness and understanding of yourself.
That's such an in-depth thing you have shared, and for this experience you don't have to go anywhere. You can just realize it from your own body, your own mind, your own sensations inside you. You are not going anywhere, and then the realization is very true, because you can realize wherever you are, wherever you're sitting, you're experiencing this gift that you can use in
Absolutely.
Your own mind. Amazing. I'm so intrigued, seriously, because I practice a lot of mindfulness and all these things, but you have like a lot of knowledge, which I would rather talk to you later after the show as well, and would love to know more about it. Yeah. So I want you to touch base on the COVID thing, that's happening, the coronavirus and COVID, the lockdown situation that's current. Everyone is locked down in their houses. They have got a big pause in their life. They're upside down, health and well-being, everything is upside down, their work routines and everything is going crazy. So how do you think yoga or meditation or good diet can help them in their current situation, or help us in our current situation?
Yeah, it's a good question, Nikki, and very relevant too. I think I will start with this, that the way Hatha Yoga and Ayurveda, they're very sister sciences. Like if you read text on yoga, Yoga Ratnakar and Yoga Ratnavali, they are basically Ayurvedic tactics. They tell you how to test a pulse, how to check the tongue, all those things. So they're very sister sciences. Both of them focus on the person. That's the primary thing they have, rather than disease. They don't focus on disease.
Yeah.
They call it savastha. Savavastha means established in the self. If you're strongly established in your true self, then you're. So healthy means not just that you don't have any disease. Healthy means you're truly established in your true founding nature. Savavastha. That is savastha.
Connected to yourself when you say healthy?
Yeah, connected to yourself. That you reside in that. You're not distracted or going away from your true nature. So once you are, so the point is that savast means you have to focus on the person rather than the disease. This Ayurveda believes that when they treat the person, and when the person gets better, disease automatically leaves the person.
Oh, yeah.
So in this COVID-19, one thing we have to understand that this coronavirus is not a new virus. It's Corona 2. The SARS virus, which came in 2002, it's a 96% genetical identification, similarity with it. So 96% genetic material is the same. It's just a new variant of it. It brings something new, and which basically challenged. So what I'm saying is that for instance, if we find a vaccine, down the line, few years, another thing can come up. So these things can keep coming up. So we have to focus on our own self, on the person. Also, in the traditionally they say yatha pinde tatha brahmanda. So whatever is in the microcosm is in the whatever in the macrocosm is in the microcosm. So they go together. So we can't control the Brahman. So we have to control the pind, or whatever here is. So once we strengthen this, what here is, then nothing external pathogen or any pathogenic evil that come from outside that can't harm you. So the primary focus of Ayurveda and yoga, the contribution will be to focus on the person, to strengthen the immune system of the person, to strengthen the defense forces, to strengthen the upright forces inside the body, so that it can face any kind of virus. Because these variants keep coming. So this is just a new. So now to strengthen those, the immune system and defense system, we have to take care of a few things. First of all, in Ayurveda they say they have 4 things. One is ahar, second is vihar, third is achar, fourth is aushadhi. So ahar rasayan, vihar rasayan, achar rasayan, and aushadhi rasayan. So they all have to together. So it's not just about giving you medicine. So you have to ask questions about the food, the lifestyle I'm living, the kind of conduct and behavior I have. Is I'm eating too much, and is I'm eating the right food, right kind of food, and how often I eat, when I eat, and what is the combination of my food. All these questions are important. And also, like, do I have enough sunlight? Do I rest well? Do I sleep well? Do I do some exercise or pranayam and yoga? So, and then do I get angry easily? Am I greedy? So all these factors basically affect your immune system. If you get angry, for instance, it suppresses your immune system. We have documented evidence for these things. This is not just some beliefs. And if we are in sorrow, this our immune system is compromised again. So we have to focus on these 4 pillars of our health. This is ahar, so food, and then vihar. Vihar means the way of life, how you live your life, lifestyle.
Your perspective.
Yes, vihar is more about lifestyle. You know, if you live in too much damp condition, for instance, don't get enough sun. So, and then achar is the conduct. There's more mental perspective, as you said, your behavior and your mental state. For instance, if you're stressed, you're in anxiety, it's going to suppress your immune system.
That's so true.
Too angry, agitated all the time, like emotions have a strong impact on the body. And in Ayurveda, they say that if anger damages the liver, and this thought, excessive overthinking, damages the spleen, and sorrow damages the lungs, and this excessive pleasure, indulgence in pleasure, damages the heart. So they have actually specified all this too. So if it affects, so achar is important. If your lifestyle is too stressful, for instance, you have to do something about it. No matter how much medicine you take, it won't help till you address that. And then in the 4th one comes the aushadhi. And aushadhi, again in aushadhi, food is a medicine too. And then plus there are certain aushadhis which basically strengthen your system, like ashwagandha, shatavari, sanjeevani, there's so many others. So 4 pillars, I would say, focus on the person rather than on the disease. And once person is stronger, then no virus pathogen can harm you. Look, we know that the TB bacteria can live in your body 20 years and nothing will happen. No symptom. But once your system gets weak, immune system, it will bounce back. Similarly, chicken pox, similarly shingles. We all have bacteria in our body. Nothing happened. But chicken pox is virus, and the shingles is virus too. But that is TB is bacteria. So, but the moment chicken pox will not happen. 20 years it's sitting there. But once the immune system is suppressed, it's
similar to cancer, right? Similar to any other disease. So it means like the main thing that we have to focus is immunity inside. So once our immunity is built up, it is strengthened, then it's like a cover. As you have said, I can identify it like a cover or a bulletproof jacket. If our
That's good.
immunity is strong and we are not affecting our mental, emotional, physical health to be compromised with that, then it's kind of a line and no disease can enter. So disease is like a dis-ease, right? So uneasiness inside the body or inside the mind. So it
Yeah,
won't touch us if that cover is there.
absolutely. You put it right, right. Yeah, disease. Yeah, disease is the, yeah,
Yeah.
that's what.
Yeah, and I mean, we have got this human machine from last so many years and thousands of years, but no one has given us a manual. So I think you have given us a bit of a manual guide of this machine. Even a watch has a manual. You know, everything has a manual nowadays. So
Yeah,
you've given us a manual that okay, take care of your mental health, of your emotional health, of your dietary health, of your physical health, because all these four pillars together will
yeah,
strengthen your immune system and will make you live better.
yeah, that's correct.
So not just touching one science and just food, food, food. I'm eating healthy. Why I'm not, healthy?
Yeah, yeah. So
Yes.
food is also, I mean, people don't realize that. People think that someone was actually, yeah, they saying that food bring antioxidants to the body. People think that body produce antioxidant on its own. Or positive emotion, if you feel have positive vibes, your body produce all those things. So antioxidants come from food, that's true, but from many other sources. Once you feel better, your body release endorphins, and opposite happen is true too. So if you're stressed, body release cortisol. That is the body, but endorphins and all those good hormones uplift your mood and your immune system get better. So once you feel secure, then your immunity, you strengthen your immune system.
Mhm.
So all these things go together.
In conjunction.
Yes, in Ayurveda, there is a concept of Sapdhatu. They're made up of 7 elements. So once Sapdhatu are in balance, in Samyavastha, then you have Ojas. Ojas is that the kind of Amrit, nectar, which basically nourish the entire body. Now that Ojas is Sapt element, this Sapdhatu is created through food and air and through water. But those, and then Sapdhatu, when they are in harmony, it becomes very Ojas, and that Ojas nourish the entire body. It's a kind of chi, what they call, Chinese called chi in tradition. So now that Ojas can also be created mentally.
Yeah.
Practice. So it has a very multi-dimension. So it's not too much focusing on the food during these times. You take vitamin C, this and that. Food is an important factor, but we shouldn't overdo it. And also these days, as you said, people have different challenges. People are sitting all the time at home, and then they keep eating. So overeating is bad too. So if you want your immune system to be stronger, I would strongly recommend that have some fasting. When you fast, your immune system strengthens. Otherwise, you're too much investing your energy on this, or you're just investing on dish. Every machinery is, working on that.
Yeah. So you have touched base on fasting. So what happens when we fast? Because when we fast, I have done a lot of fasting in the past, but I want to know from your science, your knowledge, because I have felt that when I fast, my digestive system get a rest and it becomes stronger. And also it creates kind of a balance between my mind and body. So I'm not craving for food. Like slowly I lose the cravings, and also the bad cells, the weaker cells, they die and the new cells form up. But I want to hear all that from you. Like, how does fasting, because in our old culture, we used to fast a lot. Monday to fast karna, Tuesday, and there were days, because that was the only way we could tell people the definition and how to use that in the day to day. But from your point of view, in Ayurveda point of view, how important fasting is in our health and balance?
In Ayurveda, fasting is known as Langana. They say you should do Langana once in a week. Once you should be fasting.
Complete fasting. When you say fasting, is complete fasting on water or?
Yeah, on the water.
Okay.
That is what I do. 1 day a week, complete fasting. You can have, towards the end of the day, have a mild food once you break the fast. But normally, traditionally, very strict if you say it's a 1 day complete fast, just water. So look, what happened is in this modern time, we have a lot of sugar and salt, excessive sugar and salt cravings. So, and then we want more sugar and salt, and through that we crave for food. So once in a week, then it breaks that cycle. So once that you break that cycle, then in the system, your willpower gets stronger, your control of the mind over the body gets stronger. It strengthens that. So then once it happens, then your body comes to its natural state, because once your body goes after the craving and then go for one sense or them dominates others, then it loses the balance. And then, of course, when you eat excessive and obesity comes in, and with obesity, so many diseases enter the body. So if you do this, if you actually follow this once in a week, you do a fasting, then you get complete rest. So during that time, what happens is your body is not busy in digesting the food.
Yep.
So all the ojas is going toward the repair.
Wow, repair mechanism. Yeah.
Rehabilitation, repair, cure, all the ojas is doing that thing. For instance, you have joint pain or anything. So if you eat every time, 3-4 times a day, 3 times is also excessive. Normally, children eat more than 2 times a day. That's what they need. Eat good food, nutritious food, but not more. So if you have some joint pain and you do this fasting once in a week, you will see amazing differences. Because that body, if you keep eating food all the time, then body never get a chance to heal. Just 25% ojas is going to repair, reach to connective tissues, tendon, ligaments, the deeper part of the joints. You require a lot of energy and work. So if you don't channelize that energy, then most of the ojas is going toward the digestion, then that work won't happen. If you give just 20% of that, 80% of digestion, so that pain will linger on. And then there are factors of the lifestyle factor that make it worse. So the best thing you can do is just send this digestive system on holiday for 1 day. 100% energy is channelized. Ojas is channelized to repair, rehabilitation, cure. So your tendons, ligament, connective tissues, all will get stronger. You will be more stronger. And even your hormonal problem, believe me this, if you have any hormonal issue, it's also suggested in our fix. Any hormonal related problem, you need fasting. Because hormonal imbalance is connected with circadian rhythm. And circadian rhythm is connected with our food and our sleep. Very, very important, food and sleep. And food, we eat too much, way too much. And we eat wrong food. As I said, we just eat to satisfy our craving for sugar and salt. That's it. So if we don't have that craving, we don't overeat. It's the same that you're asking. So you can't eat bland food that much.
Yeah. So sugar and salt are the drugs, I would say, because they are more dangerous than anything else.
Absolutely. And when they came very recent.
Yeah.
We need a bit of sugar and salt, but that much amount is available in the vegetable, fruits.
Fruit. Yeah. So much of sugar in the fruits as well. So now you touched based on fasting. I want also to know. So it's very kind of my topic because I have done a lot of fasting in the past, and I've seen a lot of changes happened in my body. The uncured things in my body got cured. I went to a retreat, and then after we don't used to eat anything for I think 14-15 hours. So just eating for 4 hours in a day. So that cured some deeper ailments which were not able to cure like from last so many years and 4 years. So I want to know, what are your thoughts about intermittent fasting? So does intermittent fasting also benefits or helps, or it's advisable to keep 1 day of fast?
Actually, you can do both. What I'm saying is, as I said, people eat 3 times a day. I don't know who started this system. Because in our culture, it's once or twice, that's it.
Yeah.
It's very recent phenomena.
और जब भूख लगे तो खाना, ये नहीं कि खाना है क्योंकि भूख लगानी है, you know, that you have to.
That's the next question I was coming to. So you eat once or sometimes twice. Why twice? Now, when you eat twice, when you think, how do you know that you have to eat food? You know, through your awareness, you know you have digested the previous food, then you eat the next food.
Wow.
But what? Then nothing, it's there and you still keep eating more. You change the taste and eat more. So if the previous food is digested, then you are eligible to eat the next one. So intermittent is kind of force you into that. But if you follow that rule, that you will have your next meal only when the previous is digested, then you can't go wrong.
Yeah, that's so true. Like, I think few meals our body eats because our body needs food, but few meals our mind eats because it's a craving, and you know your mind wants to eat, and you know it's all the things, cravings and desires of the mind, you know, that we give to our body.
Behind that is sugar or salt.
You have told us the core elements. So next time we have craving, we should know, is it for sugar, salt, or is it really that hunger in our body? So it's a good check and observation. I think you have given us this test, kind of a summary, you know, a test for you guys to know next time. So definitely I'm gonna use this as a test for my next time. Craving or reality.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So coming to your question, that I think don't eat more than twice in a day, and then intermittent fasting will happen on its own. Then there will be enough gap in between. If you eat 3 times, you know, eat, and then after eating you slept, and then wake up, you eat up again, and then your digestive system never relaxes, and that's also bad for digestive system. Diabetes is so common these days. So many other problems. Kidney problem is so common. Kidney also metabolize.
Gut issues are so common. Every second person has got a gut issue nowadays.
Or intestine, absolutely. And acidity, burping, chest congestion, these are things. So because it's overworking all the time, it's not designed to work that way. Animal eat once in a day.
Yeah.
You see the lion outside or any animal, once in a day, that's what we do.
Yeah.
And then it relaxes and allow that we digest it well. So we have no time to digest. It just and then what happens? You just create more fat.
Yeah.
And further the system, and then body doesn't get, as I said, just to repair. So it's a lose-lose situation. So excessive eating is bad. Craving is very bad.
Yeah.
So, and even if COVID-19, Pinky, if you see, we have a lot of data now coming from USA and other countries, Spain, and UK too, that most people who die are those people who have some metabolic disorder. And obesity is the number one killer. People who are obese, then of course they have diabetes. Of course they have some kidney problem because metabolism of the food is done by kidney. And so if you have any metabolic disorder, plus any heart or high blood pressure, then they are the comorbidities. If you have comorbidities, then that it really catches you. So if you keep your digestive system strong, then you don't have this metabolic disorder, then your system is strong. So you have many benefits, like immune system. One is to strengthen it. Yes, that's good. Boost your immunity, kick-start it. But one is how much energy you are giving to immune system. It's like I always think like this analogy, like you have a fort. Inside the fort you have king, queen, and all this kind of every small city. Outside there are forces which defend. Outside you have army.
Army to defend people coming inside the fort. Yeah.
Yes, and then in front of army you have certain some people who keep Reiki, that if everything is all right. Now if enemy come, they have to smash those people who do Reiki, and then those army, and then enter into the court. Yeah.
Oh,
So now when you know that enemy is coming, what you're going to do? At that time, are you going to supply the Ojas energy to the people who are living inside, or who are going to fight the army?
so who are going to fight because they need it, because they have to fight the battle?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If you do opposite, what's going to happen? First, they will demoralized. They don't know what's happening here. And second, they have no reinforcement. So how long they will fight?
Yeah.
So that's what happened with the immune system. It's the same system. Defense system is basically, that's what it does. It keeps track of if anything is coming. We have macrophages, B cell and B cell, lymph nodes, and then lymph nodes are like a police station. They take it to the police station and then cure them and then fix them again in the blood. Now these things need energy. Ojas, give it Ojas, it will work well. You don't need to improve your immunity, it's already good enough. But actually give some Ojas to immunity.
So how to give Ojas to immunity? Like, it's just that you have said immunity, the diet, the intermittent fasting, and eating good food, right times, and also the combination of food as you have mentioned. We really want to know. Please share with us this advice. I think all of us need that in this time and to survive future time as well.
One is the Ojas, the proportion of portion, how you're utilizing it. It's like a budgeting where the Ojas is going. And second is creating more Ojas. Like for instance, if you're not taking enough sunlight, your Ojas is not building up. Then you have to keep building it up and then spending it. If it is not coming, then whatever you have, you will spend it. So if a lot of sunlight, and if you're not sleeping well, can't come. Ojas will just deplete. Okay. So to replete the Ojas, you have to see you're sleeping. And similarly, if you're not eating well, good food, as they said, Ritu Samay, Desh Samay, according to your Ritu, according to your Desh, according to taste.
Ritu is like, season, you have said.
Season, yes. Like this autumn.
Based on season, we have to select our food, and based on the next thing you have said, the time that you are eating, before sunrise or after. It's really such a deep science. Please share. Yeah.
Like for instance, this is autumn.
Yeah.
Autumn dryness. Like every weather has some characteristic. Autumn creates dryness. So if you keep eating dry food, it will deplete the Ojas. So you have to, in this time, you need more hydration and moisturizer.
Yeah.
So also these things, the autumn and then later winter, this viral infection occurs more because a lung need moisture. That's the way to absorb the oxygen. And if these respiratory tract get dry, then it will enter straight away and it will attack the external pathogen. So you have to ensure that in autumn you're taking a lot of good oils, like good nuts.
Yeah.
And avocado, we have olive oil, good oil, sesame oil.
Easy foods which will make it like balance the dryness inside the body.
Yeah. Not the bad fat, but good oils.
Good fat.
Yeah, and plus a lot of water.
Lot of water. Yeah.
Because they will straight away help it. And when drink the water, because it's autumn is going toward the winter side, try to keep it slightly lukewarm, not very cold water.
Okay.
Because cold can dry it. So slightly warm water. So this will just taking care of, and then eat food which gives you more hydrated, like cucumber, for instance, very hydrated.
It's full of water. Yeah. Celery is a lot of water. It's water itself. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Like for instance, turmeric is a very good food, but turmeric is dry.
Oh.
You excessively eating turmeric at this time because someone read somewhere that turmeric is good. Yeah, but it's dry too. So either you balance it with some oil, like in Indian tradition, they mix it with
desi ghee. They add desi ghee. Yeah. In
milk.
The milk. Yeah.
In the milk, na?
Yeah.
Add turmeric because then it balances with the dryness and this moisture.
Yeah.
balance each other. So what I'm saying is, yeah, Ritu Samya is important. So you should know what, and Desh Samya. Desh Samya is the kind of country you live in.
Yeah.
Food that grown there are the best for you because they are grown in that climatic condition.
True.
So we have to, and then time too. Kal Samya. Kal Samya means the timing. If you just eat and sleep, what's going to happen? It's going to affect it. It creates dampness in the body, stagnation in the body, food stagnation in the body.
Mm-hmm.
Get stagnated, and that stagnation eventually brings obesity. So these are, and also Shadras. Shadras means the six tastes. Balance these six tastes, like we have pungent, we have astringent, we have salt, sugar, sour, bitter. There are six tastes. They should be in proportionate. If one is go in excess, if you like in the modern times, salt and sugar, we need some salt and sugar. But if you keep eating just these two tastes all the time, then body will be in trouble. So we have to balance all the six tastes. They have to be in equilibrium, not that two are dominating everything. So these factors, if you take care, then it will be very, very helpful. Like in current crisis of COVID-19, I don't know what, I'm not didn't discuss much with the Ayurvedic practitioner in India, but normally in Ayurveda, this kind of disease, I mean, Mahamari have come before too. So they put it under the pestilence evil. Pestilence evil which come from outside and attack us. It come in the form of pathogen, and it's a kind of pathogen. And they say it's a kind of warm disease. So what it does is it creates dampness, damp heat in the body, and that heat gets just stuck, like it helps in the stuck in lungs, and it creates excessive kapha in the body. And that excessive kapha is basically stuck in the lungs, and then your lungs can't be no more remain functional. It can't give you enough oxygen. Then that's why they put you ventilators. So the excessive kapha is being built. So what I'm saying is that the kind of food, and Ayurvedic, but my Ayurvedic instinct says that you need aromatic food. Because aromatic food is which can open up the orifices.
The senses, organs like your ear, your nose, your smells, your sense, your taste,
yes.
they all,
yes.
yeah.
For sinus, yeah.
They heightened, yeah.
Cleaning up is required.
Yeah.
Everything can free up, and lungs and everything. Once it does, it basically won't let kapha to accumulate.
What kind of aromatic foods? What do you? What can you suggest?
I think parijat is something very, very important, but it is mainly for practitioners. But for common people, I would say that do these following things. One is trikatu. Trikatu is three things we suggest. One is sont, and pipli.
Sont is dry ginger, right?
Sont is dry ginger, absolutely.
Yeah.
So dry ginger, you can powder it, and then kali mirch, black pepper, and then pipli. Pipli in English, I think long pepper. I don't know what.
Pipli. Okay, I'll find it out. Yeah.
Probably long pepper. In 2/3, 1/3, 1/3. So 2/3 salt, 1/3 pipli, 1/3 black pepper. Just make it powder, and then just take it with a bit of honey. So this will take care of kapha. It won't let any kapha to accumulate in your body. It is kind of
It's good for immunity, you said?
Sorry, I missed you. What you said?
Good for immunity?
It's good for very good for immunity, and also for this, especially in this crisis like COVID-19. What it won't let kapha to accumulate in your body, but also in general, yes, for immune system to kickstart the immune system. Is dry sont is normally sont is more potent than fresh ginger. Okay, it is when it dries up. Also, another thing you can do is that you can take some tulsi. Tulsi is good too.
Yeah.
Take the dry leaves of tulsi, As I said, dry leaves are even more potent than fresh leaves.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can powder them, and then you can add some black pepper in it with tulsi, some black pepper, and then mix with honey, and then just lick it.
What time of the day you suggest, like?
Best is morning time, without
both the things.
Yeah.
So it's going to kickstart our immunity and kickstart our metabolic rate, and it's going to give us more nutrients, or it's kind of a safeguard that you said, kile ke aas paas, we are safeguarding our defense mechanism. Yeah.
Yes.
Our defense mechanism.
Absolutely.
So previously I've checked is long pepper. So 2/3 of son, which is dry ginger, 1/3 of black pepper, 1/3 of pipli, which is the long pepper. Powder it, and then you can keep it. Add a bit of honey in that, and have it in the morning. Or dry tulsi leaves, which is holy basil, and add black pepper in that, and honey. You said?
Yeah, add some black pepper to it too.
Black pepper and honey in the morning. So we can alternate that, right? In the morning. So one day we can have tulsi, and another day we can have the son. So
yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, that's really good to know, and it's a good tip, and it's like age-old, ancient.
Yeah, also good for this weather.
This weather as well. You have rightly said, and I'm sure it is right, of course, because it's from your knowledge of Ayurveda as well, that some food are so okay in some weather, but in other weather, you're not able to digest them. You're like, I'm allergic to this food, and you have it in a different weather, you're not allergic to it. So it's like you don't get to know which foods you're allergic to unless and until we understand this deep science that you have shared with us today.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, and also from yoga side, what kind of asanas you recommend for from yoga point of view to strengthen our body, mind, connecting more to ourselves?
Yeah, yoga is basically at, I think, 3-4 levels, at least 3 levels, possibly 4. Because yoga tradition is, as I said, 8 Astangic mark, so 8 folded path, 8-folded path. So Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayam, Pratyahar, Dharana, Dhyan, and Samadhi. So Yam and Niyam are the first 2. So here Yam and Niyam is more like Yam is Satya, is Sastya, Brahmacharya, Prigraha, and then Niyama is So, Santosh, Swadhyaya, Ishwar, Pranidhana. So 5-5. So in this Yama Niyama is all about this. Is all about Vihar, the lifestyle. Mm-hmm. Your lifestyle is good, like be content, do not crave, do not be greedy, speak truth. Now all these things will create a kind of temperament which basically keep the body in a good form. Whenever you practice this ethical pursuit.
Alkaline elements.
Yeah, so and also, like, if you don't crave, it will indirectly help you in the food intake. Mm-hmm. And the second level is Yama Niyama, is asana. Asana is, as I said, whenever your system is compromised, it has many sides: physical side, emotional side, mental side, spiritual side. So Hatha Yoga will take care of that physical side very, very well. So say, for instance, you're in stress or in anxiety. What happens? You naturally become defensive. Your chest starts sinking. And once chest starts sinking, it presses your diaphragm. Now once diaphragm is pressed, you can't breathe freely. You can't breathe freely, you do shallow breathing. Mm-hmm. If you do shallow breathing, so they combine together, then you're rounded shoulder. And once it starts happening, then you have inflammation in the body. Why inflammation? Because, of course, it will be if you put using it in a long enough time.
Yeah.
Then, so can you see all those things combined together? And all you have to do is open up the posture.
Yeah.
Even if COVID-19, what are the big 4? Fever,
flu,
dry cough, chest congestion or nasal congestion, shortness of breath. They're big 4 symptoms with the COVID-19. So chest congestion, nasal congestion, they have a postural element too. Yeah, shortness of breath. If you already have these, If your chest is already congested, wrong posture, the breath is already short, you're already more vulnerable.
Yeah, that's so true.
These are going to get worse. Now, if you were, for instance, exactly in the opposite corner, the chest is really nice thoracic extension, shoulders are not round but relaxed, down and back. It not only have good impact on the mind, apart from that, it straight away help you in fighting a physical evil. A physical evil is challenging your physical body. So once you fight, it also depends. Army is okay, but if what army will do if fort is has so whole thing.
So true. Yeah.
They have to make it fort in a good form is what naturally born form is. Spine has to be extended. Spine collapse, everything collapses in it. So Hatha Yoga has this beauty. It gives you nice chest extension. Your breath becomes full. And once you have nice space in the body, your organs work well because there is no congestion. If your stomach need this space and you give him this space, it can't be healthy. Restore the space, it starts healing because it's in the natural state. And so then come the role of breathing. Yama, Niyama, and Asana, and then Pranayama. Pranayama is the breathing. We know through posture, of course, if the chest is open, you naturally breathing. But then if you practice more pranayama breathing, then you can even master the breath, master your breath. So even in time of crisis, like anxiety can't hit you, like we're talking about the physical evil, let's talk about mental evil. Someone said you something, which hurt, or you recall some old childhood memories, a very bad experience you had. It won't affect you till it affects your breath. Bridge between the mind and the body. The moment it affects your breath, your breathing becomes shallow, and you start breathing that shallow for minute or two. Brain, which is the limbic system, amygdala, brain, deepest, will get things wrong, and that creates trigger, which is panic, and then you're out of control.
Wow.
But you have that solid breath. It can't affect that mental evil, no matter how strong the impression is. It can't affect your breath. It doesn't get space. It will just stop there and go back. Okay? So it can't hijack your system. So breath practice is so much important.
So conscious breathing, you said, right? Conscious breathing. Yeah. So when we are conscious and aware of our breathing, because our life starts, when we have that breath, and when we end, the last thing we leave is the last breath. So breath is really mystical, and I really deep down understand what you are, or maybe would love to understand it more, that how we can be more aware of the patterns down and upside of the breath and see when it is not right, and then we make it balance, and then that will give right signals to the mind, and then mind will give right signals to the body, and then we are in that balanced state altogether.
Yeah, that's correct. The body, breath is connect body and the mind. It's a bridge between body and the mind. The breath is basically the language of the mind, and it reaches out to the body. So if you understand your breath well, you understand your body as well as mind. So breath is very important thing. And then once breath, pranayama, of course, it creates a lot of awareness about the breath, and you see that it doesn't change, it remains even during the tough times. But pranayama techniques are also, there's techniques in which you can really use the optimal capacity of the lungs. You can really deepen your breath to the next and then it becomes stronger and stronger. So it oxygenates, nourishes your body well. And the next fourth pillar, as I said, told the fourth pillar in the Ayurveda, which was Achar, and then Vihar, and Ahar. So these three, and then come the Oshti. So similarly here, Yama Niyama is the first one, and then second one was the Push-up, Asana, and third was Pranayama, and the fourth one is come Pratyahar. And then Pratyahar, Dharana, Dhyan, Samadhi, these are the four, but Pratyahar is the fourth one, which is the starting of the meditation. So Pratyahar is when you creating a distance between you and your senses. Our senses always hijack our body, our mind in certain directions. Livings. Like watching YouTube these days. People are just, they don't like, but they have no, they keep sitting before.
Yeah, they just watch it unconsciously. Yeah.
And then later say, oh, I wasted the time. And then next day they will do the same thing again. They do it all the time. So, and similarly food. You keep eating the food which you don't need and keep it. And then they say, I want to lose fat. I want to be lean. And then they say you do the same thing. So it's a contradictory.
Yeah.
So it's unawareness. It's not awareness.
It's unconsciously they do it. I think what you have said, I can realize it. It's addiction of your eyes, craving of your eyes, if you want to see, craving of your ears, craving of your senses all together when you crave for food. So it's all craving. I think the root is craving here. Correct me if I'm wrong here. But
no, you're absolutely. And pratyahar is that. Pratyahar is withdrawal of the mind. Withdrawal of the powers of the mind from the senses. That is what pratyahar is. Pratyahar in ahar is the food of senses is going out. So turn them in and become pratyahar. So in also Hatha Yoga, we practice this tortoise and kurmasana. The tortoise is someone who brings the senses, all his senses. Once he says the danger, he just bring all the senses inward in the sense. Similarly, like pratyahar is that thing. So you draw the senses inward. Because the senses, one is taking you toward the food, one is you, one is taking so many distractions happening and you're lost.
Yes.
Ojas is going out.
Seriously.
But inside.
True. That's so true. So how, when you said that, look inside, so turn your senses inside, you said. So when you say inside you, do you mean meditation or turning it to your closing eyes, looking inside, or just don't letting them loose? So what do you mean when you say turn them inside?
Look, this is a very good question. How to do it? So pratyahar looks very nice, withdrawing the sense. Who doesn't want to do it? But how to do it?
Yes.
So here, you have to understand what meditation is. Meditation is basically a capacity to observe something without evaluating it. That's what meditation is. You observing something without evaluating it. It's different from thinking. A good thinker or a good academician is one who can entertain a thought without accepting it. You will go very far. You'll be a good scientist. This is the skill. You can entertain a thought without accepting that thought. You won't caught up in your convictions, which normally religious people does. Those thought, beliefs, and they just stuck with it. Now, meditation is a very, very different skill, which is not easy for human being to understand. It's if I can call it a skill, it is actually a capacity of everyone involved to observe something without evaluating it. It's much higher than even a thinking. It's like a skill. You're just observing without, because the moment you evaluate, either the past will come or the future. You're not observing. Moment evaluation or judgment comes, either because you're using past knowledge, or you have certain future expectation and you're judging it. So that skill, but it's a mount, and that the moment you come into that state, you're already into eternity. That is what eternity is.
True.
The past moment is never going to die. So pratyahar is basically, as I said, once you go to the senses, we spoil the senses. We start with children, being jalebi and all those, we spoil them at very young age, and then they struggle. And then now senses are inertia. They start going in that way. The pleasure comes that way. Just the habit, nothing else. But so strong that it just natural, spontaneous to. Number two, you have to break those habits.
Yeah, those patterns, when you tell our mind, okay, do this, it becomes a pattern. Eat at 5 a.m., eat at 12, eat at 7. That also is a pattern. So intermittent fasting break that patterns. So I think it's the same you said, that breaking the pattern. Yeah.
Absolutely. We've got to
become an observer is very hard. I know, because you are observing your own life story. So life story is in front of you. This is what has happened to me. So instead of participating it again when it is in front of you, be an observer. Watch what is happening there, who is doing. So beyond your life story, the observer, the awareness which is there, looking at things from that perspective, right? So you can see the movie, the big movie on a big cinema, but as an audience. So that it's not your view, her view, past view, future view, it is just a view.
Just totally into the moment, watching the things as they are, without naming them. Like meditation is like, I hope I'm not digressing, but you're watching a tree without naming it as a tree.
Yeah, without giving any name or any identification to anything, and watching things as it is.
Yeah.
So hearing you as it is, without putting anyone's, okay, why he's saying that, why? No, as it is. Because we are so lucky to have the knowledge that you are giving seriously, because maybe we are destined to hear. All of those people who have joined, it's their destiny, we had to hear that. Maybe we have to take, our role is to, take effective action out of it. So accepting everything, every situation, every word that comes in your life as it is.
Yes. And so what will happen is, very soon, once you have to practice it initially. That's what these disciplines are, and then test out. So don't just say, oh, it doesn't work, this and that. Just try it out for enough long period of time. Then you will see that very soon you will start developing a gap between anything that happened and your action. So your reaction, most of the time our problem is we react. We react in a stereotyped way. Yeah, someone said something, I will say double. If someone threw garbage at me, I will say threw double at him or her, or at least the same. Yeah, or if I don't, or otherwise I will suppress myself and just take it in and then get hurt by it. That's the same. To respond back or get hurt by it. But both are reactions. They're different reactions, depend upon your personality. But both are bad. One creates depression, other creates anger. So can there be a third situation? Yoga, this tradition says yes, there is. So if you something happens to you and you don't react on it, you just watch it, and then another action will come, which comes through the watching, not a reactive action, but an action that comes out of real intelligence, real awareness, and that action is the action, is the true karma. An action that a kind of learning that comes, that evolves out of it's hard to put, but
it's natural intelligence. I think that comes up because when we don't use our mind, it's a natural intelligence of universe, of your body, natural intelligence of our, natural intelligence of forces.
Yes. So you're not reacting to it, but a learning that comes not from thinking too. That's why I'm thinking it's hard to put it. Not even from thinking. It's a learning that is not coming from your past experience.
Yeah, it's no mind. It's
future expectation. The learning that is coming from, and that is really intelligent action. Not karma. So then once you have that, then you have equanimity in your nature. You're even tempered, and even if you have that equanimity, you're creating ojas in your body, and that's the real treasure is. Someone said something, and if you get hurt, you're losing your just forget about taking revenge or anything. What it does, it will get more chaos in the world. Someone said something, he may have some problem. Someone had something to her, he has to throw it at someone else. He just not take it.
Yeah, true.
And it's finished. But we need people like that, meditator, who can absorb. And these people, if more of them are there, this world becomes a happy place to live in, because someone has to stop this change.
True.
Otherwise, either you react back to give it to the same person. If you're hurt, you won't react at that time, and then it will linger on and it will keep boiling, and then one day it will come out in some other way.
Mm-hmm.
But you remember, so this is not a small thing. That's connect with holy and sacred that you have this, it uplifts you straight away. It's very human, but it's not, unfortunately, not very.
Lost that, that basic rules and that ground rules. So action we cannot have any control on, but reaction is very much in control. So reacting someone it's our initiative. If we are reacting, as you have said, in an anger state, or we are keeping it inside and creating that depression, that bad, that acidic things in our body and affecting our overall mental balance, then that is our choice. So we can choose how to react, but we can't change the action. Action has happened, but reaction is our choice. If we want to react, if it needs reaction, and if we can act wisely on that, consciously we can react, or we are just unconsciously in our own patterns, we are just reacting and then creating those suppressions and those cravings and anger and that bad energy inside us.
Be careful even to call it reaction. It's just an intelligent action that is coming from your true nature.
Mm-hmm.
Because there is no ego in it, So it's just the intelligent action which is coming from a learning which is timeless, which is not...
Intuition is that, or can we link it to intuition?
Intelligent action, I don't know what word I should use, but that is karma, and that karma is, you won't breed any fun. I mean, this karma doesn't have any potential. When we do, like we say, we do an action and then it has a result.
Mm-hmm.
And that result we accumulate. So we won't accumulate any result. This action doesn't belong to the jiva. This is our divine nature, which means I don't want to be too mystical here. And I try to put it very straight there. That's my goal. I never try to mystify it. So everybody can understand. It is something accessible to everyone. It's not for some selective people.
Mm-hmm.
But an action that is coming from the real self, not from the ego. Not from the ego is the past, the created self, not the real self. Once that action comes to self, it has impact, repercussion on the entire universe.
Mm-hmm.
That will build up or feed onto your jiva of the individual actions.
जैसे आप एक seed, just one seed, it creates a tree, big tree. The tree has so many fruits, and every fruit has so many seeds. So one seed can, build up millions of trees and millions. So that way, every thought, every action we don't even know what the repercussions are, because they are like so many. So,
and then you live a very even-tempered life.
Yeah. I think that time is not there. So we are not in any time and space bound. Talking to you, I believe we can talk for the whole day as well. And it's such an intense and such a deep knowledge, that you're sharing. I really feel like talking and learning from you and, your experiences and the thing that you're giving. But would also like to know just conscious of time, but also like to know if you can share any tip from Ayurveda or yogic experience or any lifestyle that you can maybe, this is your day. If you do this, and once a week you keep fast, it's good for your health and well-being. It's gonna make you, in a system which is fine-tuned with your inner self. Can you please share with us?
I would say that if you have these days, focus on a few things like have a lot of sunshine and have a food only, have a langana once in a week, fast once in a week.
Sorry, what? Sorry?
Fast once in a week.
Fast once in a week, yeah.
Lot of sunshine, fasting once in a week, and just eat twice in a day, and then build some yoga or pranayama practice. Very, very. Otherwise, we very easy, and just reading, understanding theoretically, writing a book, that doesn't help. You need to build your own practice.
Yeah.
It has to be experience. If it is not a part of your experience, it's just a talk, empty talk. Make it a part of your experience. So build some practice of yoga, pranayama, and these days, for instance, like this immunity is such a big thing because of COVID-19. So say that in your practice include some inversions, backward bend. So when you do the inversion, whether backward or forward, you kickstart your immunity.
Okay, nice.
And it also move your the lymphatic system across the body. The lymphatic vessels and the lymph nodes. They basically go to various parts, and if there is pathogen in the body, they just trap it and bring it to the lymph nodes. And the lymph node, you have that immune cell that kill them. But if that lymph is not flowing across the body, then by the time lymph reaches there, it may be too late. They already have accumulated buildup. So if lymph flow, if you do daily practice of inversions, then lymph will flow, and then you won't let them build up. Include some inversion, either backward bending, forward bending, or some twist. First, a solid breathing practice. Also in the morning, we normally 8:30 in Dhamma Yoga, we give a live session every day. And this breathing session is mainly for people who have insomnia, who have any mental issues, who can't sleep well, or who have weak immune system, who have anyone. This is so easy session that anyone can practice it, whether you see this or you have some issues. So it's a very all-inclusive session, so anyone can practice. I strongly advise that you should come practice more, so it will build your practice. So this thing, if you take care.
How long you can you guide us, like half an hour yoga every day and breathing? And if we connect it to time, because we have time for that.
If you good practice, just do 20 minutes for portions. And I would say rather this way, 15-minute portions and 10-minute breathings. 5 minutes sit down quietly, completely quietly. Just become an observer, like we discussed. At that time, don't let senses to go towards where they want. They will expect it. It's a practice. You have to build strongly, slowly. But once you do, then you have that pratyahar, which you have skill to withdraw your senses like a tortoise from the world and bring them in. And then you start exploring the nature within. And what is within is what is outside. Yatha pinde tatha brahmani. And so build some practice this way. Half an hour, 15, 10, and 5.
Nice. So half an hour of breathing, postures, eating healthy, eating right food, right combination of food. Once in a week, keep your digestive system on pause. Just don't eat. Give it a rest and check your mind, test your mind. If it's coming in, not coming in, you will get rid of some cravings, and it's really, really helpful. And also eating some aushadhis, like you have said, you have given us some magic foods like dry ginger and pipli, was that?
Pipli, yes, pipli, dry ginger and black pepper.
Black pepper and turmeric.
BKG uses Chyawanprash.
Yeah.
That is made up of amla, because there's a lot of amla in it.
Vitamin C is there, yeah. Natural. Yeah.
It's also in Ayurveda, because Ayurveda doesn't see the vitamin C, but Ayurveda says that because it cures all the 3 doshas, Vata, Pitta and Kapha.
Okay. So from where can we get the Chyawanprash? Do you think the Dabur, I don't want to name a brand, but where can we get a potent, a nice, a good, valuable, so that we are not just wasting, our time and money?
I think just see that the contents, it shouldn't have too much sugar in it. And amla should be the main ingredient in it. Chyawanprash has chowan. This is 54 herbs actually.
Oh, that's oh my God.
Amla is the dominating one.
Yeah.
So it's a very, very good actually. If you want to improve immunity, Chyawanprash is already there. It's a good brand. Himalaya is like a good brand. I'm saying good because it's working since 1920s. You can find some good brand and just see that not, because sometimes the people start adding too much sugar in it these days. Just check it out. That it's not acceptable.
Yeah. So it's so lovely to talk to you. Seriously, I feel like we can talk for another hour. I think we should definitely have you again. But if any of the viewers, thank you for joining us. I know there are Harinder ji, Ekta, Jyoti, Kavita, so many people, Neeru, Rekha, Suni, many. If any one of you have any question right now, we are happy to. Are you happy to stay back for 5 minutes and yeah? So if any one of you have any question on how yoga and how these natural practices that Dr. Amit ji has shared with us, if you have any question, please write down in the chat. If you feel like you want to talk, you can talk as well. So anyone wants to ask anything? So while they are framing the question or maybe thinking about writing and doing that, I have another thing that so many people have, because we are sitting in front of computer all the day, wrong postures, back pain. Some people have, pain in the lower back, middle back, upper back, all these pains. So yoga also heals that or helps in healing that.
Most of these are postural issues.
The disc, herniated disc, and it's L1, L3. I've been hearing that from a lot of people because my job is also on computer, and that's why people I meet, they are also sitting desk jobs. So do you have any suggestions or do you have any video that is specially for back posture yoga and any case study about it?
This in the Dhamma Yoga page, we put a lot of information about. In fact, we are very specific too. Sometimes people have tailbone pain, like today in the morning we did session for the insomnia, and a couple of days back for the back pain, sometimes for back pain, shoulder pain. So people keep writing us, and we make videos. So if you go to Dhamma Yoga page, you'll find many videos, and I'm sure you'll find video for your problem as well, because there are hundreds of videos we have on. So there's a lot of information we share about it. But in general, Hatha Yoga is the best solution for the sitting problem. Sitting has started since 100
years. Yeah, 100 years back there was no sitting job. Yeah.
So we sit for long hours, and then it put a lot of pressure on the low back. Neck is back, and our shoulders are more internally rotated. Neck overly flexed. This is become round. There is a lot of scoliosis in the chest. These all things can be corrected by the posture. If you, as we discussed before, half an hour practice if you built, and into those poses, just do a lot of thoracic extension, like cobra pose we do. It's basically lift it up, and it will also help in the chest congestion. Downward facing dog. It's good for the sinus too. Okay, when you sinus. And this is Kurmasana, like. Kurmasana is tortoise pose. You can find information in our page. So in the tortoise pose, is like it helps in building pratyahars. If you get very angry, agitated, right? Practice Kurmasana. Kurmasana is tortoise pose. Tortoise we know is known for pratyahar. And also they have very long age too.
Yeah, they're long as 100. Yeah. That's also it's worth thinking about.
Calcutta Jew, I think his age is probably 700 years.
Yeah, oh my God, yeah.
The tortoise lives for 1,000 years too.
Yeah.
So, so
there's a question. Someone's asking about do you also do Kundalini Yoga?
We do sessions on Kundalini Yoga. Kundalini Yoga is like once in a month.
Once in a month. So all the information is on your webpage, and somebody has also asked about your webpage. So it's Dhamma Yoga. So you can go online on Facebook, Dhamma Yoga, is the page, and you can like it, or if you want to see some, I think you post yoga every day. Every day there is a yoga lesson there, so there is a live session, so you can be part of that, and you can do yoga with Amit ji, and on the same time half an hour sessions, and also he runs retreat, which I know while talking to him, twice a year. Now I think in COVID we can't do, but I'm sure when it is open, I'll be the first one to go with you, trust me. I would like to experience that Hatha Yoga, that traditions and that raw value of our ancient culture that we have lost. I really would love to get in touch with that again. Yeah. I will share the link. So it's Dhamma Yoga. I'm going to write it here. And I'll also share that on Harman Foundation Connect page. So if you have missed it, so you can connect with Amit ji for anything. He also do consultancy. He goes to various corporate, he goes to various universities, and he teaches kids as well. So there are kids sessions separately. Do you do online classes for kids as well?
Kids do, yeah. We do it on Zoom actually on every Thursday.
Okay, that's good. So for kids as well, I think you should also do it one for seniors, so that every segment, every group can find benefit.
On every Monday. And it's free for every seniors. We don't charge for it. So if someone is, seniors who need it, just sends. All we need is email, and then they can log on to the workplace, and then they directly say. It's very mild class. Design is Christian. Everyone can do it.
Okay, that's so good. That's so good to know. Really, thank you so much. I feel that time should stop here today, but time is not stopping. It's just kicking, it's ticking and kicking. So thank you so much, every one of you who have joined today and devoted your time to understand, to get the knowledge, this ancient knowledge that Amit ji has shared with us. And thank you so much, Amit ji. It was seriously so good to hear you today. I really feel so, I've added so much value in my life, even while talking to you remotely, and I really would like to meet you one day after COVID, and I want to share, my experiences, and I want to learn from your experiences, and want to learn and learn and learn from you. Yeah. Thank you so much for your valuable time. Seriously, thank you so much. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you.